For more perspective on the conflict, I'm now joined by two guests in Moscow. Vladimir Sotnikov, he's the director of the Russia East-West Center for Strategic Studies and Analysis. And from Kyiv, Pavlo Kukhtar, he's a Ukrainian economist and former acting minister of economy in the Zelensky government. Gentlemen, welcome to you both and thank you for joining us. Pavlo, if I could start with you first. Now, leaving aside the fighting and the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Ukraine right now, what is the state of Ukraine's economy? It took a nosedive prior to the Russian advancement, but how are things there now?
Well, generally, financially, the system is quite stable, and I believe it can hold for months, if not years. Of course, the real sector of the economy, let's call it like that, is heavily disrupted by the fighting. What's particularly worrisome for, I think, the whole international community, particularly the Near East, Africa, maybe China and India, is the fact that the harvest is disrupted. And Ukraine is a huge food producer, so we already see food prices skyrocketing, and this definitely will have a really huge negative impact across the whole Eurasia, particularly among the nations that have very large populations like India or China. So that is definitely a danger. Otherwise, the economy is disrupted, but it's turning quite quickly, I'd say, into a war economy geared up to support the war effort. So logistics is shifting towards that, and the enterprises are being recalibrated to that and evacuated to the rear areas and recalibrated for production of materials that are necessary in war. So in general, the economy will cope. Of course, its main function in a war is to supply the war effort. The rebuilding after the war will cost, of course, a lot of money, but I believe we'll get to that.
And Vladimir, turning to you now, Putin's plan to sanction-proof its economy of foreign exchange reserves and gold is now heavily compromised, that half its banks have been frozen. Did the Kremlin have a false impression of the economic regime that he would face if he started this war?
Well, actually, yes. The economy of Russian Federation is now actually sustaining a lot of difficulties. First of all, the exchange rate of ruble per dollar, because the exchange rate is doubled for ruble almost to 30%. And the higher prices, significantly higher prices in the shops, and ordinary citizens are just very much upset with this fact. But I cannot say that that was a false, as you put, false step or false economy, because I think that Russia will sustain, and actually the government of Russian Federation has a very strong economic bloc, and I suppose actually that it was planning, and it has been planning the countermeasures against falling ruble and declining economy.
I mean, Russia has embraced a Western economy, a capitalist system, companies like McDonald's, IKEA shuttering their doors. How is the middle class of Russia responding to this? You know, did Putin really think that he could wage a war based off the back of foreign reserves and chunks of gold? How is that going to be useful in a global economy? We are in a globalized society, and how do Russians perceive that now?
I would like to say that it seems to me that there are two actually trends in Russian society, as I can observe. The first trend, this is the rather wealthy people who actually are very much fearing to lose their money. I mean, probably the money which they accumulated in the foreign currency. And another trend is the ordinary citizens who are actually not very much paid. I mean, that's so. But there is something common in these trends, that Russian people, actually, both wealthy people and not wealthy people, are used to live in this, as you put it, westernized world, and in Russia, and in the global economy. So I think that there are signs that people are just trying to understand what will be going next, and how can we cope with these difficulties which are arising rather rapidly?
Now, Pavlo, you seem to have a fairly positive or optimistic view of Ukraine's economy, that it will be able to bounce back. Now, according to the chief economist advisor of Zelensky, more than half of Ukraine's economy is shut down, and infrastructure assets worth 100 billion have been destroyed since Russia launched its offensive on the country, and not to mention the millions of people that have already fled. What is the best case scenario for Ukraine to rebuild its country and economy here?
Well, again, at this point, we're talking about the economy of a country essentially engaged in total war. And the economy in this case becomes subservient to the war, which means that we're not really calculating effects of livelihood. More we are calculating, we're looking at how the economy can serve the war effort. Livelihood will come after the war is over. Just to give you a perspective, while the Russian currency collapsed almost double, right? So it collapsed 2 times. The Ukrainian currency is essentially at the same level as it used to be at the start of the war, right? So I'm saying that the system is stable enough and it is capable of sustaining the war effort, which is what is required from it at this point. After the war, I believe Ukraine's perspectives are quite good, because I firmly believe that the EU question is now decided positively on the question of time when Ukraine will enter the large economy. It attracted huge interest from all investors. Essentially, it's a country #1 at this point in the world. So the perspectives are actually quite good. The main point is that the war has to end for all that to happen. So we are looking to end the war successfully at this point. That's the main goal for us.
Vladimir, is there a chance that, many Russians don't perhaps realise what's at stake here? If the forecast is a 15% drop in GDP, some say it could be much more severe than that. Is there potentially going to be a catastrophe in terms of what poverty Russians might be looking at, everyday Russians?
I wouldn't say that it's going to be a catastrophic poverty in the country, because anyhow, Russian government managed or is managing to support the ordinary citizens with some anti-crisis measures, like the pensions being paid in time, like, for example, some benefits to pay for ordinary Russians. So I cannot imagine that there will be a catastrophic, actually, collapse of the economy. So, but surely that these ongoing military actions and the special operation in Ukraine will take its toll in terms of I anticipate even the fall of ruble as per dollar even more, and probably the shortages of some goods which Russian people used to, foreign goods, will be also influencing the paradigm of the demand of ordinary Russians for goods.
OK, we'll leave it there for the time being. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Vladimir Sotnikov there and Pavlo Kutka.
Thank you.